All right. So today's icebreaker is what is one thing you've achieved personally, could be recent, could be past, that you are proud of? Personal accomplishment. Let's go first with Alfredo.
Personal accomplishment. I was able to take care of my dad in post COVID. He's a singer. I was able to put a stop on all my work just to take care of him and help him with all his stuff, his career, and get to him understand the importance of taking care and this new context of COVID. And since he was able to keep on working, and now I'm transitioning back uh, to my work. But I'm proud to be able to take care of my dad.
Yeah, I'm
Everything
not
I
gonna,
got on
I'll
my head.
leave here in about 15 minutes.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
And who do you put popcorn to?
I'll popcorn to Bailey.
I ran 3 marathons and an ultra marathon last year, and that was rad, especially because I had a pretty big running injury in my young 20s, and there was a period where it looked like I probably wouldn't ever run again. So it was cool to, I'm proud of myself for working with that injury and getting back into it. Nicole, what's something you're proud
I didn't hear the entirety of Alfredo's, but mine might be something similar. I was just in New York for the last 2 months of the year and was able to help my grandma go to heaven at her house. That was a really challenging experience for my family, but we did it. I will pop to Nels
I'm so sorry I joined 1 minute late. The prompt was just something that we're proud of.
in your personal life. Yeah.
Ooh, personal life. Right now my wife and I are balancing two children while both in grad school. Um, and I'm proud that I'm keeping two kids alive. Or sustain, I guess helping sustain them. That's been something that is definitely hard and challenging in its own ways, but I'm very proud of. And I'm gonna pass it to Sarah. Have you gone yet? Then Sarah it is.
No. Um, Last week I figured out how to install a charger for my electric car. That's all I got. So,
I'm not ready. Um, well, I was also back home on the East Coast the last 2 months, taking care of my mom who was dealing with some health stuff. So I don't, yeah, I don't know if I've gotten to proud of that necessarily, but I'm glad I was able to do it. Um, I will popcorn to Maite.
Um, I guess I'm proud and glad of spending more time with my family over the holidays. I'm sorry, I popped in late, not sure who hasn't gone yet.
Got,
Katie, go
got
ahead.
us done.
I'm proud that I have two fully functional adult children. I got them across the finish line to piggyback on Nels. Who else did you say hadn't gone yet? Amy, Kat. Dave?
Dave?
Dave? Okay.
Yeah, I don't have anything as profound as what's been said. I guess when I was trying to think of something, I coached Little League and we like started like a team outside of Little League for the kids to like keep playing all year round. So it's been good. So it's like they have a group of friends now that they're playing baseball with. It's not just a little spring thing. So I feel like it's been good for the kids and to be a part of that. Yeah, thank you for that baseball. Aaron, I don't think you went. You just kind of made us all say this stuff.
Yep. I don't have anything. I'm gonna pass now. So mine's more recent. This morning I was able to shovel out all my neighbors. We had like a foot and a half of snow. Of course, the caveat is I do have a tractor, so it only takes like 5 minutes, and everyone's so so thankful. So it's nice to be able to do that, which is kind of like a mix between personal and professional because the tractor technically belongs to the garlic, but I'm going to count it as a personal win. And who hasn't gone yet? Cat, I thought we said, okay, Cat.
No. Um, so recently, a friend of mine and I had, in separate occasion, won tickets to this wake park and water park. And lately, I've been finding myself very fearful of a lot of things that I used to be really comfortable with. Like I used to go trekking, I used to be really adventurous, and now as I get older, I get more and more scared, which is annoying, but it's in my head. And for whatever reason, my friend and my partner got tickets to the wakeboarding section of the park, and I was the one who got tickets to the inflatable section of the park. It's like the arena. And it's like, do you know, see that show Wipeout where you have to like run through an obstacle course and you get punched like into the water? It was that with 30 screaming children. And I was like, you know what? I'm here and I'm gonna go for it. And I'm not confident in swimming or obstacle courses, but I made it through the obstacle course and only injured two places in my back. So I feel pretty good about that. Yeah, I got booed by some kids too, but you know, overcoming shame. Back to you.
We got everybody? I always lose track towards the very end. Okay, cool. All right, that was interesting. We should do that more often. So today is a little different from some of the other sessions. We're kind of taking a little bit of pause to take stock of where we're at, just reflect on what we've learned, and also give everyone a chance to, with peer feedback, to dive in a little deeper to the works that you've been working on so far with your logic model problem statement, your statement of need or understanding of the problem, and your outcomes. So we're going to go into all that in a minute. But first, a quick reflection. I want to just go around real quick and have each person, and you don't have to really embellish, just you can kind of just state it, one insight and one challenge. So these are takeaways from the course to date. Just give me one insight, something that you're like, oh, I kind of really, it's really an aha moment for me, and something that you have found difficult, challenging, that maybe you didn't expect, or maybe you did expect, but whatever. So let's start with Maite, and just briefly give one of each and then pass it on.
I guess an insight would be uh the importance of truly understanding and being able to talk about the problem per se, that focus on the problem. And challenge, writing a story for sure. Like how to tell that in a compelling storytelling way.
And pass to someone, please.
I'll pass it to Bailey.
Yeah. I think the most aha moment I've had so far, we were in a breakout room and we all read a problem and we all were interpreting it differently. And so that clarity of aligning your problem with the policy that you're seeking to address is your solution and your problem in really close communication. I thought that was a really interesting insight. Honestly, the biggest challenge that I'm having is uh, just being in a virtual classroom. I've somehow managed to really not have such a sustained online course, and sometimes I feel like for example, I wrote homework this weekend. I don't know which my Google files it's in, so just some of the kind of um, tech side of it.
And who do you popcorn to? How about Alfredo?
Yep. So in times of the insights, importance of keeping the audience in mind, tailoring it to the audience. So, kind of, that, but now it's explicitly like you have to articulate everything, thinking about the audience. You all will change, right? For instance, of not jumping into the proposal writing before reading the RFP, considering the audience and reflecting and creating a problem statement with the team, analyzing the resources before getting everything sort of done and to be more efficient. So that was an insight I got regarding the in terms of the course and challenge. I think it's basically the same. It's challenging to articulate it and leave emotions and passions behind and focus on the audience, since the audience I'm working on right now is an institutional audience. Is the Department of Environmental Resources of Puerto Rico. So things you have to get out of the articulation of the problem and the solutions. So yeah, that'll be it. I'll popcorn to Dave.
All right, thank you. I think the outputs versus outcomes has really helped me a lot and provide a lot of insight, especially kind of the logical progression to these long-term outcomes that as a scientist I was kind of afraid to say, but now understanding how you get there. So that's been really helpful. And then challenges, kind of the like ad hoc writing requirements where we're kind of in session, then we're going to break up for 20 minutes or 30 minutes and start writing things. It's been helpful, but it's certainly been challenging to try and revise or edit or use that time as best I can. I will go to Sarah.
My favorite insight, what came up with it with Nicole, was that your solution is basically just the inverse of your problem statement, which seems so obvious once you say it out loud. And the biggest challenge for me is actually the time commitment. That's probably more a reflection on the rest of my life than anything else. And I'm having a hard time seeing everybody. So Nels, you have not gone yet.
I'd say one of the biggest insights from this course has been just how your narrative or the narrative that you are selling to your funders is a make it or break it. And that's, a very basic way of putting it, because clearly your narrative is defined by all of these other things that we're learning about within this course. But just thinking about how or reflecting on how I've sold CFBB in the past, just over these past couple of weeks reviewing material, I'm like, wow, I wonder how I used this version from class or what I'm learning now if I would have sealed that deal. Challenges, definitely. Just probably time commitment, I would say, with Sarah, but been reviewing the materials with just kind of the split hybrid version that my boss and I need to do now, and that's been we've been working through it. Yeah.
And Margaret might be. Oh, Katie hasn't on yet.
I'm here.
So Margaret, so you got two things to answer for. First is what's a personal accomplishment in your life that you're proud of? And then after you answer that, what's one insight you take in terms of takeaways from the course so far? One insight and one thing you found challenging.
I think the personal accomplishment is restoring a genetics program through congressional support for the shellfish industry on the West Coast. And that was a long process, but it's certainly something I regard as an accomplishment that I facilitated and led. And then my insight is how, and I think similar to what Niles was saying, is, how important it is to be succinct, and that elevator pitch is, in things that I have submitted in the past, I used way too many words and probably lost too many people, and how important it is to really be succinct. And then the challenge is, in addition to some of the things that I've been hearing, the extemporaneous writing and quick assignments in 20 minutes. Those are challenging, but not having a fully baked idea that I've run up my flagpole to apply to all these assignments, I think has been a challenge for me.
And Katie, I think you're the last one.
Yeah, I think probably for me narrowing in on a problem has been a challenge for me to actually name it and examine it. And that I think that's because this is our organization does a lot of has a lot of moving parts and we do a lot of things. So I don't think I came in with a clear picture of one specific thing. And then the challenge I would say is because we're a really small organization, a very busy small organization, and we have a long history of sort of the way that we've done things. Um, you know, maybe changing minds and ideas about how we're going to fundraise and things like that. I think that's going to be my big challenge.
Is that everybody?
I didn't go.
Oh,
I
all
would
right.
say,
Cool.
yeah, that's okay. My insight was, I've been working on what I'm working on for 8 years, and to me, it just feels like everybody should obviously know things. And when we give feedback to others, I would say, especially like you guys as the facilitators that don't have like a serious fisheries background, it's just really interesting, like to communicate with someone that doesn't have the background. So it just reminds me sometimes like how basic you need to be in explaining things because you have to assume that your audience doesn't have the institutional knowledge that you do. And then I would say my challenge is I feel like recycling is mostly like a moral imperative, which that's a word that you shared with me, Aaron, that I wasn't familiar with before, is just like something we all agree that we should do. And it's sometimes very hard for me to explain it as a problem because it's just like we shouldn't do this, but why? So that has kind of been pretty challenging. I think I'm on the way because you can always like reframe things as, it reduces pollution or environmental emissions, but I really would like people to just want to do it because it's the right thing to do, not necessarily have to give all these other rationales.
Awesome. Okay, now we've got everyone, I think, right? So that was great. I heard some interesting things, which some of the things I heard include that people have really been thinking about who are their audiences, how to communicate their ideas crisply and in a way that's tailored to that audience. And also some people mentioned some things about the process, about working with other people on your team to move things along and engaging people on your team internally and externally. And these are all important things, and also outputs and outcomes and that sort of stuff. And that tells me that you all have been thinking really deeply about the concepts that we've been going over, which is great. And we're going to drill down into more detail on some of those things. Like tomorrow's focus is outputs versus outcomes, and we're going to help you kind of refine your understanding of those even further. Because all the topics that we're talking about throughout the course there's a lot of crossover. They're multi-layered. Some can be kind of complex. So we try to spend enough time on that. One of the reasons that we just did this reflection, a couple of reasons, is one, from a learning perspective, I find it helpful, so hopefully you do as well, to think back and just reflect on what you're learning and if you've learned and so forth and what you're taking away, because I think it helps you process things, helps us process things better. And also, this is a means of formative assessment for us. So again, you'll see in a minute how everything we do through this course is kind of tied to the logic model as well. And this kind of conversation provides us, Sol and Kat and I, with qualitative information that we can employ immediately to make improvements to the course. And that has strong linkages to our evaluation plan for this course as well. Again, this is like a modeling in some ways of what we're doing together. Kat, can you go to the next slide? So the objectives for today's lesson are to, again, just solidify your understanding of the logic model components that we've covered so far, like logic model problem statement, the outcomes, and how those two things are connected, really understanding the problem and also more closely related to grant writing, the statement of need. One thing that I'm definitely taking away from our conversation we just had is that one of the challenges that I'm hearing is that it's hard to like be put on the spot and said, okay, now produce. It's like, you're not circus monkeys. You're not just going to go out there and write a 6-page document in 20 minutes. And, we'll do a better job at creating realistic expectations around that stuff. And one of the ways we're incorporating that today is giving a lot more time for discussion to go deeper into the stuff that you all are working on in terms of your logic model, your logic model problem statement, your outcomes, and your statement of need. And it is through those conversations and doing those kind of exercises that are going to take us further along and help you to develop the plans for your work and to write components of your grant proposal. And I definitely hear also that the time commitment is an issue, and we will continue to strive to make this workshop, these sessions, as productive as possible for you, meaning that you don't feel like you're wasting time. Everything that you're doing here, we want to be directly tied to the program that you're writing a grant for and or designing, so that you are getting a lot of value out of this as much as possible. So agenda is, we're going to do a quick exercise just to kick things off about the logic model, again, to reinforce the framework. And then we're going to spend most of the session today, probably an hour or a little bit more, in 3 small groups. We're going to have a group for the logic model problem statement, one for the statement of need, and one for the outcomes. Each of those groups will have a facilitator. I'm going to be the outcome, Sol will be the logic model problem statement, and Kat will be the statement of need. And you'll have a chance to workshop. We're not going to say write a polished document. It's going to be more like working with you where you're at, getting peer feedback, and just advancing the works that you've already started. So we have a good chunk of time for that. And this is a little bit of a deviation from what we had planned originally in our syllabus, because we're just recognizing where everyone's at, and we're hearing the fact that folks want more time to really dig in. So we've carved out some time for that. And let's go to the next slide, Kat. So, oh, yeah, can you share the link? There's a link that Kat's going to share in the chat. And I want you all to give you about 4 or 5 minutes. I'm impatient, so I might tell you to come back after a minute. I'll try not to be so rushed, but read this over. You could even just skim through it. So this is the proposal that I wrote to EDF when we were conceptualizing this program, the coaching and the training. And I want you to kind of look at, just read it through, and then we're going to talk about the connection between this proposal and the logic model, just to kind of draw a straight line between this framework and real life, because I use this framework when I'm planning things and writing things on a very, very frequent basis. And this is just one example of that. So just take a couple minutes and look through there. There's not going to be a quiz or anything. I'm just going to ask you a few questions about that proposal. Okay, time's up. No, I'm just kidding. You can have a couple more minutes. So this proposal essentially is what made this program possible. And it started off as an idea that we developed using the logic model. There's a good amount of research in here, trial and error involved in this. And this is exactly parallel to the process that we're going through. So we're going to do this in kind of whatever the logic model version of speed dating is, speed logicking. Can we call it that? So I was going to throw some questions out there, and we'll see if we can fill this in. Kat is going to record. What would you say is a problem statement? And this doesn't have to be exact, because there's not a right or wrong answer necessarily. What do you interpret as how would you state the problem that this proposal is seeking to address?
Something like nonprofits aren't getting the structural and personalized support that they need.
Okay. Anyone else have anything to add to that?
I can't put it as like a full statement or problem sentence, but there's definitely something here about building off of or changing deficiencies that you recognize in cohort 1 and applying that to cohort 2 or changing that for cohort 2.
Yep. Okay. And again, this is an iterative process, so this might change. Anything in here might change as we go along. How about outcomes? And this is not a trick question. I think there's a section titled outcomes there. So does someone want to just list a couple of those in your own words?
Pen fundraising strategic plans completed. Oh, whoops.
Yeah, I think they speak to sort of capacity development within the organizations themselves.
Okay.
So skills and
Yeah, and then the last bullet under outcomes is about just feeling more sustainable and self-reliant.
Mm-hmm. Interesting that you use the word feel. I think that has significance. Because that word feel, that manifests in the way that you might ultimately measure something like this, right? It's much easier to measure whether someone feels differently about something than whether they actually are different.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. You
Just an
put like
observation.
self-reported in there, which made me, I
Mhm.
think, go in that way. Like you're reporting, but you could also self-report on your actions, I guess, too.
Mhm. Anything else under outcomes?
well, I'll say I feel a little bit baited because in my P brain I've been thinking of sort of the outputs as associated with numbers or targets of numbers. And here in your outcomes, you put numbers in both. So I was like, well, wait a minute, numbers should only be in one or the other. So I don't know why you did that.
Mhm. How about the outputs? What are the outputs?
Number of grants increase submitted, a measured increase in the grants submitted by the organizations.
Yep. And to get back to Margaret's point, I think the number, like in this context, I was writing a proposal, so they wanted to have a number. It could have been stated as, instead of 10 organizations increase capacity, organizations increase their capacity, or capacity of the organizations is improved. But either way, it's still an outcome. It has that number in there, so it's quantifying the outcome. But I think you are your kind of presumption that outputs generally have numbers, and those numbers can help you associated with those things, those milestones can help you know whether or not you're on track to those outcomes. That's very important.
Aaron, can I
And
add, like Margaret, generally in outputs, we're looking at what directly comes out of activities, and then outcomes are like the changes in behavior or capacity or et cetera that like are associated with those outputs. So if your activity is to run a training, you might want to have as an output like 15 people are trained, but your outcome would be that like 15 people or 90% of those like graduate with a certificate, or 90% of those report like 20% increase in XYZ capacity. Your outputs are more like a measure of the activity that you are doing, and the outcomes are like the changes that result from them. So they can be quantifiable or qualitative, but generally it's more about like what ultimate change comes from those outputs.
And Wednesday's session is going to be all about that, so we'll go into that in much more depth. If you're a little confused about that now, it's okay. I still get confused with those things sometimes. So do these outputs seem like they connect to the outcomes? Is having more grants submitted, does that connect? Because that's not talking about whether you have more money or whether you win. It's just, it's a number of things that you do. You're submitting more grants. Does that, if you do that, does that lead you to the conclusion of this, any of these outcomes? Is there some connection there?
Well, I think that it's important to distinguish that they're submitted, not awarded, because you use the word increasing org's feeling of sustainability and self-reliance. So if it's a feeling, like if you feel like you have the power to submit more, then you feel more sustainable, but it's not necessarily like you're not responsible for us actually.
Yep. So it could definitely connect
Yeah.
there. If you feel more successful, you feel like you can do things better. But couldn't it also connect to this one in kind of an absolute sense? If, well, I guess if you won those grants, then you could say that organization with more money and the capacity is increased. But there's obviously a step missing there because we don't know if they won the grant.
Well, and that's also a kind of a big thing to put on this course, the responsibility of whether we win the, so feeling like yeah.
And we do actually, we say that we're going to increase the monetary, the revenue generated. We don't say per organization, but we say in aggregate, like we're shooting for $1 million. Like last time we think we got $10 million. Time before that was $1 million. So it can vary greatly, but that is something that the group that we're contracting with, EDF and Walton, they want us to get you to that point. They want us to get you more money. It's hard. So that's why that's not our only measure of success, is not just money raised, but do you feel like you've improved capacity? Do you have a new business plan that you're going to implement, and so forth? What about some, again, I don't want to get too far down the rabbit hole here because this is going to be a whole subject for tomorrow. How about some activities those were not explicitly labeled, but you could probably pull some things out of there. So these are the things, again, working backwards. The outcomes address the problem. The outputs tell you whether you're on your way to those outcomes. The activities are things you do to achieve those outputs. So what are a couple activities that are embedded in that proposal?
The 40-hour training sessions, the coaching sessions.
Yep. So these are things that we're going to do, we are doing right now.
Developing a fundraising strategic plan.
Yep, as part of the coaching, we could say that.
And I would say also making the self-directed courses available to us.
Yep. So if we're thinking, for example, how do we help them get more grants submitted? Well, we're going to have to train them. We're going to have to give them a whole bunch of educational resources to help them to write grants better and more efficiently. So you can see the connection between those things. How about inputs or resources? Again, these are as you work backwards, you see how you get to the next step or how you got there. So what type of inputs or resources do you need to execute those activities?
All of your expertise that you are all sharing with us. The snazzy computer program, the portal piece. I mean, it's an important element of getting the training.
Mm-hmm. So what you kind of pointed out here is that inputs and resources are not exclusively about money. I'm sure someone's about to say money, but expertise is not, it's something that's already there, right? And it's something that you can't necessarily just buy. It took us decades to learn what we've learned, and this relates to all of us. You all bring years, if not decades of experience in your work to the table. So now you're thinking, oh, I'm a resource. Yes, you absolutely are. And these are some of the things that make you more competitive when you're seeking funding, is to talk about the resources that your team is, essentially the assets that give you credibility, and because they're going to help you do the work. And I think Kat added participants, which is a great one, because we have this attitude that we want people to learn from each other. And if we didn't have that attitude, you still would be a resource, but I don't think it would be as valuable. So we've structured our course around the ethos that you all have a lot to share. And if we didn't see you as a resource, this might just be a lecture-based course, and you would, I think, learn a whole heck of a lot less than you're learning now, because we consider you all resources as part of this process. Kat, can you can go to the next slide. We're going to share this with, and I think just a quick note, in the right-hand column under outcomes, Kat has this in red. I think because maybe this could be an output. I'm just guessing, because it looks like possibly an output to me. Anyway.
Yeah, I was thinking, or even an activity, which it could get placed again as an activity. Yeah.
All right, so next slide. You'll have copies of all this if you want to reference them later. We're not going to really discuss this. I just wanted to show you. A lot of times people say, can you show me an example of this type of work? So I've created, this is kind of an organizational level logic model for writing for green. So implicitly, I created this logic model 3 years ago when I started writing for green. And you'll have a copy of this too. And the reason I'm sharing this is because a lot of you, through my conversations with you, have kind of expressed an interest in, or I've intuited value in, this type of organizational logic model. We've talked about the fact that it can serve as a basis for a strategic plan. A strategic planning process for your organization could follow the same type of process that you use for planning a program. It's framed differently. Instead of being focused around a specific program, it's the aggregate of all your programs or your organization as a whole. So I founded Writing for Green to respond to a very specific problem and a very specific opportunity. The problem was that there was a whole bunch of money coming down the pipeline through the Biden administration, which that itself is not a problem, but connected to the fact that a lot of frontline environmental groups didn't have the understanding of how grants work, and didn't have the writing skills, and didn't have the capacity to get those billions of dollars. So that was a problem that I was working to solve through Writing for Green. And so if you look at that logic model, if it's of interest to you or valuable to you, you can kind of see how that was done and think about it through the lens of your organization, and maybe something similar is possible. So I'm gonna just pause there, see if there's any questions, and then we're gonna jump right into the next thing. Also give you all a chance for a break if you need one. Kat, can you jump to the next slide? So as I mentioned as part of our agenda for today, in this next section, we're gonna split up into 3 breakout rooms for an hour. We have an hour, and we're gonna let you all rotate between the breakout rooms. Go back to a glossary first, if you don't mind. So I include this glossary here just because I think we like to be very precise with the terminology, because if we're not, we recognize that can cause confusion, because at least in this setting, we're viewed as the experts, whatever that means. So this is kind of our shared definitions here that we're going to be using, that we've used and will continue to use. A statement of need is a detailed description of your problem that is typically part of a grant proposal, but also it's core in your planning process to have a deep understanding, in-depth understanding of the problem. The logic model problem statement is just a short summary of that statement of need, or you could say the description of the problem. It's a 1 to 2 sentence concise summary of that problem. And the outcomes are essentially the change that you want to see. In terms of an individual level outcome, we talked about the other day, knowledge, attitudes, behaviors, also skills kind of get in there as well. Changes that you want to see in an individual that can be easily measured. On a larger macro scale, changes in environmental condition could be considered an outcome. So just some baseline here. Okay, next slide. So we have 3 breakout rooms. The logic model problem statement, statement of need, and the outcomes. And for each of these groups, we're going to have you bring whatever you did. So if you want to spend a second now pulling up whatever you've written, if you can find it, because we'll ask you to share your screen. You don't have to, but oftentimes it's going to be more productive if you can share your screen so we can give feedback to each other more easily. And then you'll have the option to switch between the groups. So you can stay, if you want to stay in group number 2 for the entire time, that's an option. If you want to bounce between them, that's fine too. So anytime you want to switch to a different group, just tell your facilitator, and then you'll go back into the main room and Kat will plug you into one of the other rooms. Any questions about that?
So you're putting us into one of the groups, and we can stay there as long as we want, or within our group, are we bouncing from problem statement of need, and outcomes, or is each room is assigned one of those?
Yeah, okay. Each room has a topic. So my room is going to be outcomes. If you've talked to me in my group for 10 minutes and you're like, I get everything I need, you want to go back to a different group, we'll send you back to the main room, and you can be useful. Could I just see a quick show of hands who is interested in breakout room number 1, the logic model problem statement? You can just raise your hand like this if you want, or I'm slow with the emojis. So how about the statement of need number 2? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. And how about the outcomes group? Okay. I think that's fine. So if we have a group that only has 1 or 2 people in it, that's also great, because the facilitator can just spend one-on-one time with that person. So we're just going to let folks bounce around, and then we'll adjust as we need to. And feel free to take breaks during this process. And if at any time you're like, you know what, this is going to be more effective for me if I just turn my camera off and work on something on my own, then feel free to do that. And you have this time dedicated anyway, so hopefully that will be a good use of your time.
Yeah. For my benefit, the hand raising, I can't catch everyone. Could you put a heart emoji if you want to go to the outcomes group, and could you put a thumbs up emoji if you want to go to the logic model problem statement group?
I feel like I'm on a game show. Who's going to come to my group? Come on.
I don't know why my emoji is not popping up, but I want to go to the problem statement.
Which one was the statement of need, Kat?
It's just in the main room.
Oh, main room. Okay, so we don't move anywhere. Okay.
Don't need to move. Yeah.
So
Oh, just kidding.
statement of need, we don't give you any emoji.
Yeah, no feelings.
Okay. No feelings.
So for
Okay.
for the outcomes group with Aaron, I have Bailey and Dave. And for the logic model problem statement, I have Alfredo and Maite with Soul. Did I miss anybody? Okay.
Kat was right. She said, I think there's going to be the most people on the statement of need group. And I'm like, really? She was right. It's always
Yeah,
right.
I think just because we haven't had a chance to do like peer feedback on that yet, that's why
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
chose that group. So just to give you some insight as to why I chose that.
Yeah, I understand. I would be the same way. That's what I was telling him. I was like, obviously statement of need.
You're also killing the tech management of all of this, Kat. You're doing a great job with the rooms and the screen sharing and the whiteboards and all of that.
Thank you for acknowledging my
Yeah.
hell.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's like the middle of the night for you, right? So you're already
Yeah, it's 4 a.m. for me.
I'm amazed with how well you orchestrate
I
all
just
of this.
noticed the time on your sharing the screen thing for the first time today. I didn't realize that that was your situation.
Yeah, I don't recommend my life choices to anyone.
Oh.
Your temperature is also in Celsius. May I ask where you are?
Yeah, I'm in Cambodia. I live in Siem Reap.
Okay.
Love it here. It's just more affordable. I could live, have a good time. My partner is also from Germany, so this is kind of like a nice spot. We don't have to worry about visas yet. I'm kind of worried about the US that they're going to start being like US passports not accepted. So I'm like, oh my God, someone marry me really quick. I'm a little nervous. But I think in this group, would y'all like to have the opportunity to share what you've written so far and we can open the floor to some feedback? Or do you have some broader questions that you would like to ask first to the group about the problem statement? Okay, now's I see a hand up.
Yeah, I think I did two for this because our organization is going through just a transition to our own 501(c)(3), and so I have and one second, let me pull up my notes here. I have a statement of need for us just becoming a standalone organization, but I also have a statement of need for like our current um project, which is Pebble, or like our work on Pebble Mine. And so I guess for purposes of this breakout, um, which is this just like pick my own poison, looking for recommendations from the group as well.
That's true. I think we can see what we have time for. I'm not opposed to hearing both. I think we'll see if anyone hops back in, but maybe we can start for one for now, go on the rotation of the group, and if time we can circle back. So one that feels more pressing to you, you could start with.
Oh, was that my segue into starting too?
If you want. Do you mind to share your screen also?
Yeah, I just have this in a Word document. Was I supposed to put it somewhere else?
Doesn't matter to us.
Okay, give me 1 second.
Yeah.
Okay, share screen. Oh gosh, okay, let's see.
Yeah. And if it's not too much trouble, we could put the text in the chat.
Oh yeah.
Maybe for folks, that might be easier for them to read.
Statement of need. I'm gonna go for the organizational focus of what I was just talking about. And then I will share my screen.
Okay.
So can everyone see my screen here?
Yes.
Okay. Um,
Could you
okay, so
just make it a little bigger, Nels, like zoom in so we can
yeah, of
just see
course.
that?
Mm-hmm.
1 second. Let me see if I can do that. There's got to be a way. Yeah, better.
Yes.
Yeah, great. Yep.
1 second. Here we go.
Perfect.
Here we go. Statement of need. Bristol Bay fishermen face a complex set of social, environmental, and governance challenges that I did the full 5 sentences, so that might change here. Bristol Bay fishermen face a complex set of social, environmental, and governance challenges that extend far beyond the proposed pebble mine, including allocative conflicts, hydropower development, and fisheries management decisions that directly affect livelihoods and ecosystem health. While many existing organizations represent specific gear types or narrow interests, no single entity is positioned to unite fishermen across sectors to engage collectively in these issues. Commercial Fishermen for Bristol Bay fills this critical gap by bridging gear type divisions and building a cohesive region-wide fisherman voice that can effectively participate in board of fish processes, advocate for sustainable management, and respond to emerging development threats. Without sustained capacity for CFPB, fishermen risk being fragmented and underrepresented in decision-making spaces where outcomes shape the future of Bristol Bay's $2.2 billion fishery and the communities that depend on it. I know that's like a really big mouthful of stuff, but it's hard.
Yeah, I am trying to hold on one second. So in the chat, I put in what are some of the key elements that we want to touch on for a statement of need. And I just invite the group to look over Nell's statement and Nell's as well, and look at the key elements and see if you have any feedback or input for Nell's on something that you feel could be touched on more in depth, or also elements that were very well rounded in this statement of need.
Yeah. I would say, Nels, I feel like the statement of need to me is like the scientific journal article kind of portion of the program where you're saying like, there's 1,800 fishermen cite CFEC statistics, and 30% of them are set netters and 70% of them are gill netters, and the set netters are not part of whatever group or whatever. So you're kind of like putting numbers and scientific, not necessarily scientific, but you're citing numbers where I don't really see that a lot in here. I think the words are all really great, but you got to put some statistics and sources in there to distinguish it from the other parts of what we've written so far.
Really fair feedback.
I think that's really good feedback. Statistics on demographic. I just said fishermen, and so I think that's really good feedback.
Well, because you're saying like that many organizations represent specific gear types or narrow interests. No entity is positioned to unite them, period. Like whatever number of people are gill netters and they have this representation, but the set netters don't. So you would like put in the numbers or something there. Or you could say, what would be another like thing that you could cite?
Yeah.
Oh, I think I mean, I think I have the resources to cite. Like, there's some economic development reports, there's some permit demographic reports that are out, or Fisher reports, and so I think just getting the fact that I need statistics behind the demographics was a great lead-in, and I can find the resources for those.
Yeah, something I add to Nicole's point, some sources and some more context on what is the problem. To me, on the initial read through, we're mentioning some heavier topics: hydropower development, fisheries management leadership models. But then the problem reads to me is that there's not an entity in place to help. Or is the problem that we want to discuss and dive into allocative conflicts, hydropower development, and fisheries management? If so, I, as a reader, don't have enough information to understand those three problems and what do they mean, and how do they impact the community themselves, data on that, context on that, and ultimately why as a reader, why do we care?
Thank you for that. And just in response to that, because this is helping me just think out loud. I mean, the problem is that fishermen are just being left out of this conversation, that they are fragmented, that there is no kind of organization that is, or that CFPB is the organization that's poised to be the unifier, the bringer together, the community builder, the educator on these issues. And that, so yeah, but thank you for saying that, because that's what the problem is that there is no fishermen are being left out of all of these conversations.
Yes.
And oh, sorry, Kat.
No, go ahead, Margaret.
To sort of jump on that bandwagon, when you have an association or group, what role can they play in solving your problem? Is it looking for legislative options? Is it looking for compensation mitigation? Is it what is the actual thing that this group, once it unifies all these voices, what will they be working towards? Because trying to jump up against some of those big words, the hydro and the hydropower and the allocation conflicts, is there a role for the fishermen's group in that, or is it just to be a presence?
Fair. What is the intervention we're trying to solve? Then, therefore, that dictates what's the problem that we should be focusing on in this moment. I think something to think about too, there seems to be in text quite a balance of the problem right now and the proposed solution or intervention is about half-half. And I think something to keep in mind is when we're writing a statement of need, the real takeaway of someone reading your statement of need should be that they can walk away and say, I have a whole picture or an in-depth understanding of the problem that this community is dealing with. I understand it. I can communicate it well to others. And yeah, there's never a better opportunity to incorporate than a story, so that there's an emotional connection to it, that they're not only saying, I understand what the problem is with data, with numbers, I understand as well why I care about this problem, why I, girl living in Siem Reap, Cambodia, care about the Bristol Bay fishermen. So connect that for me. And when we say briefly mention the solution, we mean briefly. You do not have to provide an in-depth pathway to addressing these problems in the statement of need. That is for the rest of your proposal. That's getting into your intervention, your approach. What you're doing is just touching on that, giving like a taste of being like, without this, and this, these groups will continue to experience this problem. And, CFBB is working towards this, and then get into that details later. So you don't have to worry about the solution angle too much. Sarah, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, I was going to say that you might want to specify why being left out of the conversations is a problem. What are the consequences of being left out? Like you lose your access to your fishing grounds, or you lose quota, or you lose, your fisheries go away because your fish populations decline, or whatever it is.
That's great.
Thank you guys. This was very helpful. Yeah. End scene.
Nels, who would you like to go next?
Ooh, Sarah, you want to know what? You and I have been picking on each other all day, so I'm gonna toss. Well, like I passed it to you earlier, you passed it back to me, so I'm just gonna continue to play the game and pass it back to you.
I have one problem though, in that it's very hard for me to. I'm working on two computers here.
Fair.
So I'm just going to join with the other one and see if that's the.
Or if you have it in a Google Doc, Sarah, you could just paste the link and somebody else could. No? Okay.
I'm very neurotic about my digital hygiene.
Okay.
You're not wrong for that. You're not wrong for that. AI is looking into all my life secrets.
I know. Sometimes, but somebody has to let me in.
Yep. You're right.
Thank you. And then I have to figure out how to share the screen from here. More. Is it under more? No.
I wish I could see your screen. Sorry. It's a
That's the point, right?
yeah, it's this green up arrow for the share button. But if that
Oh,
doesn't
there it
work,
is. There it is. There it is. I
okay.
was looking at the wrong spot. There we go. Okay. There you go. Okay. Do you want me to just read it?
Sure, absolutely.
Declines in Yuba River salmon populations have contributed to failing ocean and river fisheries in California. The Yuba River once produced 100,000 adult Chinook salmon annually, and I need a citation for that from the Management Council, which supported ocean commercial and recreational fisheries, inland fisheries, tribal harvest, and many ecosystem benefits. In the past 10 years, adult returns have numbered between 2,000 and 5,000, a small fraction of their historic abundance. Daguerre Point Dam and Englebright Dam block salmon from the high-quality upstream breeding and spawning habitat. A fish ladder at Daguerre Point Dam, built in 1910, is outdated and inadequate. Fish are unable to move above Englebright Dam. That might be totally unnecessary information. CDFW has proposed a nature-like fishway which would vastly improve fish passage above Daguerre Point Dam. This fishway would reopen 11 river miles to Chinook salmon, doubling the available habitat that is currently available in the Yuba River. Because Chinook salmon populations have already declined by more than 90%, it is impractical to assume that the reopened habitat will be reclaimed without intervention. The productivity of this newly reopened spawning and rearing habitat can be optimized with strategic reintroduction of juvenile Chinook salmon. Potential methods include egg injection in gravel beds, streamside incubation boxes for newly hatched eggs, or release of juveniles directly to the river. And I had one quote that kind of needs to be worked in there somewhere about rising temperatures and greater demand on water resources. And NIMS says that reintroduction is necessary, basically, for long-term conservation and recovery.
Yes. Thank you. So everybody, I invite you to look again at the elements of a statement of need and give your initial thoughts on what elements you think were incorporated well or what recommendations you have.
Can't actually see that statement of need thing.
Oh, sorry, it's in the chat.
I know
It's
it's
the
just
PNG I shared that when you click it, it'll pop up.
oh, it did pop up that time.
Yeah.
I would say this writing is so comforting for me, Sarah, as a scientist, but I feel like kind of what I was saying before about my insights is like in your second paragraph, you say, you know, that the fish ladder is outdated and fish can't move above the dam. If you don't really know a lot about this, you're like, what does that matter? That fish can't move above the dam. So I feel like it's written very technically and scientifically, but if you don't know about how salmon spawn or move and why the dam is a problem, then maybe that isn't as clear.
Great.
Thanks, Nicole. That's fair.
And I guess I'm not particularly clear on who the advocate is, like who, I don't know, like who benefits from this work other than, I guess, the commercial and recreational fishermen.
Oh,
Yeah, it's not implicitly said who is the demographic to be served. To me, the reading of this, I think it feels like the group we're serving is the salmon.
Yeah, so kind of the problem, I think, did you say like the return has gone down? But I think we need to have that in terms of like how does that affect the fishermen? So used to be 100,000, now it's 2,000. Populations have declined by 90%, but how has that impacted the fishermen? which feels like it should be self-explanatory, like if what they're catching
Because there's no fish,
goes,
there's no fishing.
yeah. So, but it could
yeah.
be like, yeah, that fishermen have like not been able to fish. The fisheries have closed or the harvest has been reduced by 90%. Maybe that's a way of saying it that makes it directly that this is a problem that the fishermen have.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, just a quick check-in. I see some people cycling in and out. Nels, just wanted to ask if you wanted to take this opportunity to jump in the room with Sol for the logic model problem statement.
I was a little bit enthralled with Sarah's just because she took such a different approach to it. I feel like mine had no science and hers had a lot of science, and so I just found this valuable, but I'll pop in a second.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, if you want to stay here, that's no issue too. So Maite, I'm seeing you want to go into the outcomes group.
Yeah, I think.
So sending you. Alfredo, would you like to stay here or?
Yeah, I'll be staying here, then pop into the outcome one.
Okay.
But for now, yes, staying here.
Okay. Okay. Was there any additional feedback for Sarah? I'm gonna try to. I think for me, I agree with Nicole's point about the data-driven components of it. I think we're really strong, and I think the sources that you use and cite were good, clear numbers, created a very obvious picture for me. I think just an anecdote. I know you're looking to add a quote, but something anecdotal to help us draw into the community that is viewing this as a challenge for them, that they're working to overcome this challenge with the reduced salmon would be great. Or even a story about a particular fisherman or a family that this issue is directly impacting will help increase the emotive factor, the care factor for this problem. Sarah, did you have any questions for the group before we move on?
No, that was actually really helpful. Thank you.
Okay. All right, who's the next victim, Sarah?
Margaret.
Thank you. I am only on one screen today, so I'm not sure how successful I'll be on sharing screen. And I already have, oops, my message is too long to put it in the chat, but let me see if I can, if I share this screen, you'll probably all have to see each other for a bit. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, I don't know where. Oh, I don't know how to do it. Oh, is this it? Maybe this one's it. Oh, here it is. All right. Is that visible? Increase size? I don't think I can increase it.
That's great.
Okay, perfect. So shellfish farming is a time-honored tradition of the Pacific Coast, which currently contributes over 400 million in economic value. For nearly 100 years, oysters, mussels, clams have nourished and provided jobs in coastal communities, even fueling the gold rush of the 1890s. Today, the industry represents a community of coastal stewards who represent multiple generations before them who farmed those same lands. Shellfish provide structure and filter water, attracting eelgrass and forage fish and improving the marine ecosystem. Unlike other agriculture, shellfish are neither fed nor fertilized, making it the least resource-dependent protein in the food system. This, combined with the environmental benefits, means shellfish or oysters are the only net positive producer of protein. Shellfish is also very nutritious, providing low-calorie, high-protein food with essential minerals and vitamins. Today, 80% of the shellfish is consumed through food service. Most of the shellfish is consumed within 50 miles of the coast. Not only are fresh shellfish difficult to find in parts of our country, but a percentage of shellfish available in inland markets comes from foreign sources. The Presence of imports threaten West Coast shellfish growers who can't compete with foreign imports. Increasing sales of shellfish to shellfish deserts can be achieved by engaging food service professionals, educating consumers, and making the connection between farms and the food system. Targeted oyster-focused programming will be designed to inspire expanded offerings at typical point of sales locations like restaurants and grocers, encourage consumers to select shellfish as part of their food choices, and help build confidence in preparing it at home. Shellfish growers would be the focus of the programming, which would bring attention to the individual businesses and help build relationships throughout the supply chain.
Okay, group, again, let's look at the statement of need elements and let's give Margaret some feedback.
I see like two problem statements kind of at the same time here. One is that people in the middle of the country don't know anything about shellfish, and there is competition or foreign shellfish that take over the markets.
Mhm.
So I think if you want to include those seem like two separate problems to me. So I think if you want to include both of them in one statement, then your real problem statement needs to be market. There needs to be some sort of umbrella statement about what your problem is.
Yeah, market
Yeah.
and access to shellfish is the problem potential.
But are those two, because they are I guess related, because people in interior are finding that foreign product more accessible. But are those two problems that can exist in one solution? Maybe not.
If I may, I think the problem is, would you mind to scroll down for me a bit? Because I'm looking for the fisheries name. I think the problem is that shellfish growers and part of this West Coast Coalition are grappling with a limited market due to marketing competition and limited awareness. So I would make the problem that shellfish growers are struggling in the industry. And then this information details you're adding as the why they're struggling. So you could have a paragraph for each.
And they're struggling because there are very few consumers in the middle part of the country, and they're competing against foreign sources.
Right. So I think the problem is the limited market. Then these elements that you're introducing are why there is a limited market, which would then help frame it back to the problem, which is the industry for the shellfish growers. Because I agree with Sarah, right now it looks like two different problems where the shellfish growers are being more posed as the solution, whereas the actual issue is how this is impacting shellfish growers.
Yeah, and I guess my comment, Margaret, would be that I love like the way that you write the first paragraph, but it doesn't feel like that is really belongs in the statement of need. It's talking about like how great oysters and shellfish are, whereas the second paragraph is really what needs to be expanded on, which is what the problem is. And you have both of your components in there. So I think just digging into like the second paragraph is really what needs to be written more about rather than the first paragraph or the third paragraph, which just seems to be like the solution.
Absolutely.
So I think all the language is really good, but it doesn't really go with what the statement of need should be. So save that text for something else.
Okay, that's awesome. Great. Thank you.
Just a deeper dive into the demographic as well. Like, let's introduce the audience a bit more. They came in at the end, whereas they should be framed from the beginning. And again, similar to feedback for the previous, like, don't be afraid to tell a story. Yeah, don't be afraid to give us a little sob story, make us care a little bit. So in this case, should be focused maybe on a West Coast shellfish grower.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I realized that there wasn't that story, but I tried in the first part to kind of characterize that they are
Yes.
stewards and they come from multiple generations caring for that same land, but
Yes.
that's not enough.
Well, I
It
think
needs
your
to be
your
more.
first sentence is great, but then so shellfish farming is a time-honored tradition along the Pacific coast, blah blah blah. But then the following statements after that should be more deep dive into these shellfish farmers,
For more,
as
yeah.
opposed to talking about the industry at
Hmm.
that stage. Yeah, because I agree with Nicole. It's like this is a great picture that helps us understand the history, but it's not. We can be more direct about the problem here and really focus on the people to really humanize this issue. I think I'm seeing a trend with a lot of these communities where we're focusing on the fish and the product more than the people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Got it. Wow, this is great. This part wasn't recorded though, is it?
It is. We're in the main
Oh,
room.
fantastic.
Is that sarcasm?
No, I'm glad because you all have such great tips about moving things around and keeping things. And so my notes are not don't successfully cover that. So
Yeah, absolutely.
excellent. Thank you.
For sure. Before moving on to Alfredo, do any of you want to hop into another group?
I mean, I'm happy to hop into the outcomes, but
Okay.
I
You want to
realize
stay?
this is a safer place. Yeah, I'll go to outcomes and see what people are talking about
Nice.
there.
Okay, sounds good. I'm doing that. Okay.
Kat, would it be possible for me to go first so then I could go to a different room after
Yes,
that also? Okay.
absolutely. Go ahead.
Okay. Let's see. Is this big enough?
For me, yes. How about for Alfredo, Sarah? Is this okay?
Yeah,
Okay.
okay. Valuable petroleum resources are being wasted in communities all across the US as plastics get thrown away, not to decompose, but just break down into microplastics that persist indefinitely. This is in direct contrast to the lack of recycled plastic available for use in manufacturing. In order to close the gap, we need to collect more plastic for recycling and not just from the blue bin at the end of your driveway at home. In 2019, only 5% of plastic waste in the US went for recycling, 86% went to landfills, and the rest was incinerated. We need to collect more plastic, and one industry that is ripe for improvement is the maritime industry on the Pacific, Atlantic, and Gulf coasts of the US. Ports don't currently have the infrastructure necessary for collecting and managing net and line waste from vessels. So, by partnering with Net Your Problem, they can increase their capacity for waste management and ultimately increase the supply of recycled plastic available for use in manufacturing. When this plastic is then used as an alternative to virgin plastic, it can decrease the carbon dioxide emissions of the entire manufacturing process by 83 to 98%. And for every 10,000 pound net that is recycled instead of landfilled, 5 metric tons of unnecessary CO2 is kept from entering the atmosphere. We also need to keep plastic out of landfills because they're filling up. Kodiak, Alaska's landfill will reach capacity within 20 years. Juneau's landfill is projected to fill up as early as 2037, and recycling and other diversion programs like composting can be used to effectively extend facilities' lifespan. Some communities in Southeast Alaska, like Sitka, Petersburg, and Wrangell, already ship municipal solid waste to Washington and Oregon to be buried, and in some remote regions, landfills are eroding into the ocean. This situation is dire. We need to move away from linear waste management systems, transition to systems that are circular, recognize inherent value in waste, and do what we can to extract as much of that value as possible.
Can I ask a quick question before we get into the feedback? Who is the intended audience when you're writing a statement of need? Because is it for like a corporate sponsor that you're looking at talking about the issue in general, or was there a specific community that you were targeting for this?
Not a specific community. So I think, yeah, just I didn't have it in my mind when I was necessarily writing this. So I would just say, like, yeah, general people that I now know. I'm running a major gifts campaign after talking with my coach. So
Yeah,
people that I would be asking for major gifts from.
got it. Okay, thank you. So Alfredo and Sarah first, can you look at the elements of the statement of need and give some feedback for Nicole on what components you think were covered well and what suggestions you have?
I like it. I think it actually, I mean, I keep forgetting the thing because I can't see it very well.
I feel like after listening to the other feedback, I feel like I have a lot of problems in here. You know, it's like carbon emissions, landfills are filling up. There's not enough plastic, like recycled plastic for use in manufacturing. So I don't know if that makes sense to just focus on one,
Not necessarily, not
or
I
necessarily.
think
leave
it's all
it.
part of
Okay.
it. You might just need one sort of organizing sentence about how
There's a lot of problems, and then
landfill.
kind of talk about each one.
Um, yeah, like maybe even this, where's the part? We need to move away from linear waste management systems. Something about the linear waste management systems are a problem.
Mhm.
And I've never heard that term before, so maybe it might need a little. I mean,
Okay.
I understood what it meant immediately, but it you might use that sentence to sort of say like, first of all, define the term a little bit, and then you
Okay.
can
Yep.
go on to detail why those linear waste management systems are all a problem for all the reasons you say.
Definitely. Um, I think all the content is there. I think it's some what the order in which information is introduced that I would move around a little bit.
Okay.
When you were reading through the sentence, in 2019, only 5% of plastic waste in the US went for recycling, 86% went to landfills. I was like, I feel like that's more of an opener
Okay.
because I'm like, dang, like right there, that's data. It's a hook. It's a hook. Do you know what I mean? That
Okay.
I read that, and I'm like,
Yep.
shoot, that sucks.
Yeah.
Now
Okay.
tell me more. Tell me why. Tell me the impact of this. Why is this happening? And then, yeah, so I guess the overall problem that we're getting into is the the inappropriate, wasteful use of plastic
Yeah, I
overall.
mean, and this kind of goes with what I said before, like in the beginning about how I'm struggling with like, it's a problem because we just shouldn't be throwing stuff out, is sort of my general statement. So, like, this right here is kind of what I have been using as my problem statement, which is just like, we're wasting stuff.
Hmm.
And that is sort of the problem that I want to solve, but that's very difficult to like cite and get people, like emotionally connected to. So then I use these other things like, okay, we don't have enough recycled plastic to use in manufacturing. It's doing unnecessary carbon emissions and landfills are filling up. These are kind of like supporting problems to get at like my main problem, which is just we're being wasteful.
Yeah, the
Wait,
management of plastic. Okay.
is your main problem that we're being wasteful with the resources we have, or is it that our landfills are causing problems? Which end of it is it?
Mm,
I mean, I agree that they're both problems, but
Yeah.
that's true. That's a really good point.
So I think like in my mind, a landfill is a completely like legal and reasonable way to manage waste. So it's not really causing anybody a problem other than like it's wasteful. So we shouldn't be throwing things out if we can do something else with it. But
Oh,
yes, also landfills are filling up. But if I'll be honest, like I'm cherry picking ones here that
well,
are
but
at
there will always be
their,
another landfill. I mean,
yeah,
that's the unfortunate reality of the
yeah.
U.S.
But like in the lower 48 compared to Alaska, there's plenty of land like to turn into landfills. So this is an issue that is kind of like a uniquely Alaska issue with not a lot of land and low
yeah,
population
okay.
densities. Um, But yeah, I think the problem that I want to convey is that we're being wasteful.
Yes. Yeah, I think that the target data that I would focus on here is that in the US, 86% of plastic waste is being treated as single-use plastic and going
Okay.
right into the landfills because, and then within that, the context of we do have alternatives that can be incinerated, can go for recycling. Those aren't being used. That's an issue. I'm a little confused as a reader about the different terms because I see plastic waste, petroleum resources, um, recycle. Is there, and then virgin plastic? So there's just a lot of different terms being used where
Okay. Yep.
I'm getting a little thrown on that one. Sorry,
Yeah.
Sarah, what were you gonna say?
I was just going to say, I think that the landfills might be your problem statement rather than the because if the petroleum resources being wasted is really your problem, then you should switch materials.
Well, no, because we can use plastic, but we're just wasting it by throwing it out. So I don't mind if we use petroleum resources to make plastic, but then we should be reusing that plastic, not throwing it away. So that's the whole idea kind of like a linear waste management system is just like buy, use, throw out. Whereas a circular economy or circular system is like use, dispose, remanufacture, reuse, and it kind of like stays in a circle.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the terminology I'm familiar with, less involved in the industry, is like the practice of single-use plastic. So it's just not viewing plastic as something that can be used again, that can be recycled, that can be in your house for other purposes. But the single use is you have it once, you got a to-go container from a restaurant, then you just toss it,
Right. Yeah.
So just that lack of not just education, but like the a lack of like cultural mindset and behavior around plastic use and around environmental
Yeah.
protections. And then, yeah, I would agree with say like the impact of that is tangible for people that is concerning is how it affects landfill space. But I think your other elements are stressing that like there are other avenues out there. People are just not utilizing those other options. Why are they not utilizing those other options?
Yeah.
So I think that's the larger. So the issue is that the landfills are getting filled up and that people are single-use plastic, but why is that happening? What
Yeah,
is
well,
the
I think
why?
what you said is so interesting, Kat, because basically what you've got from this is that even if something is recyclable, it's being treated as single use because it's being thrown out and it's not being recycled. So
Yes,
I think that is a avenue and the language that I'm gonna explore more in how to write this. Because
yes,
for me, single use is like this cup, right, is not manufactured as a single use item. But if I didn't recycle it, it would essentially be a single use item.
correct. Yeah,
So I think that's a really interesting like way to think about it, that even things that aren't manufactured with that intention, if they're just being thrown out, they inevitably become single use. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of people are familiar with the single use instead of like all these very industry specific words that I'm using that are just causing confusion. So,
Mm. I think also as well. So at first we start broadly about in general issues that we see in the US. In the last paragraph, we're really focusing on a region within the US. And I think
okay,
if there's just a transition there, that would help quite a bit of saying like this issue, like this issue of single-use plastic is especially pronounced,
sure. Yeah.
in the, wait, what is my brain? What region of the US is that?
In Alaska. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, but you mentioned Washington and Oregon as well.
Yeah, because communities in Alaska don't have
Okay,
land, so they ship their garbage to Washington. Yeah.
gotcha. That's great. So you're saying landfills in general is an issue. Landfills are filling up. In Alaska, especially, this is an even more critical issue because of the
Yes.
limited land space. So that would be the
Yes.
thing to communicate.
Yep.
So
Okay.
like, interesting. Oh, Margaret's back.
I'm back
Yeah.
because Aaron said maybe Seoul doesn't have anybody.
She had Nels. Let's see,
And
would you like
yeah,
to hop in
so
there? Oh, Nels left. Yeah, would you like to go?
yeah, Nels left, but then Aaron was asking both Nels and myself to come here.
Okay.
I mean, to go to Seoul's because yeah.
Okay.
I can
I'll
go to
send you
Seoul's.
in.
Yeah, and I can go to Seoul's after this too. Do you have anything feedback, Alfredo?
I'm just hearing and was considering all the feedback you received, adjusting my need statement. But I
Oh,
agree
okay.
with everything that was presented. It's a wicked problem. It's got many possible causes. Solutions could be complex to articulate in which perspective address and I think you did a great job. And also the feedback was great. I don't have any specific feedback.
Okay, great. Okay, so then I'll stop sharing Kat, and if you want to put me with Soul, then I'm happy to do that.
Okay, sending you out. For some reason, it put me in her room for a second, so I hope that doesn't happen again. We'll see what happens. Okay.
Got it.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, welcome Bailey as well. And Sarah, do you want to stay? Or what would you like to do?
Or you can send me wherever.
Okay. Are you feeling problem statement or outcomes? What would be most beneficial to you right now?
Send me to outcomes.
Okay.
Please.
There you go. Okay, Alfredo, it's your turn if you feel ready.
Okay, let me try to share screen. Entire screen,
No
I
problem.
guess.
And Bailey, in this group, what we've been doing is going one by one through our, oh, look at me, through our statement of needs.
Okay.
And then we've been looking at, I'll resend it in the chat. The key elements of a statement of need and using that to inform our feedback if we have touched on all these points well, or if there's certain elements of a statement of need you would suggest Alfredo to expand on.
Awesome. Thanks for getting me up to speed.
No problem.
I just know this is pretty long, but let's see. I sort of got this out of the center and presented in the start, um, based on the feedback you gave to Nicole. But so to go will be based on existing scientific evidence and ecological trends. If no local action is taken to reverse reef degradation, a total collapse of Culebra Island coral reefs, our natural nurseries, and our natural fish nurseries is expected to collapse by 2030. We need to act now to conserve what is left and protect our natural habitat nursery so marine life can thrive and maintain our food source and touristic asset productive through time. Culebra Island is a municipality of approximately 1,700 residents, where livelihood, food security, and quality of life are tightly linked to the health of coastal ecosystem. Coral reefs and seagrass beds within the Luis Peña Channel Natural Reserve, east of Culebra Island, west of Puerto Rican Archipelago, function as a critical fish nursery that sustain local artisanal fisheries and support the island's nature-based tourism economy. For fishers and residents, these ecosystems are the foundation of local food supply, recreation, and income. Furthermore, it's an important nursery of fish seed larvae that will outflow with currents that flow west to benefit the rest of the Puerto Rican archipelago. And I inserted a quote here, and then I'll go. Despite being legally designated as a no-take marine reserve in 1999, the reserve coral reefs have continued to experience significant ecological decline. Available monitoring data shows a dramatic reduction in live coral cover over the past 2 decades, coinciding with increased physical damage from illegal anchoring, reef trampling, and unmanaged unsustainable behaviors from visitors. So climate-driven regional stressors such as stronger hurricanes and ocean warming have increased ecosystem vulnerability, making the control of local manageable stressors essential for recovery. Coastal ecosystems need space and time to recover from broader regional unmanageable threats. However, Puerto Rico's prolonged fiscal crisis has limited institutional capacity to effectively maintain mooring and marine recreational infrastructure and conduct routine environmental enforcement, resulting in deteriorated or non-functional buoys and continued non-compliance from recreational visitors. Example, anchoring directly on coral and seagrass habitats. The lack of a reliable and long-term buoy inspection and maintenance program has direct consequences. Physical destruction of nursery habitats, reduced fish recruitment, increased navigational risk for boaters, and erosion of the local economy that depends on healthy marine resources. Years of growth are dying in a matter of seconds with an anchor impact. Evidence from NOAA guidance regional case studies demonstrate that well-maintained mooring systems combined with outreach and user orientation significantly have the potential to significantly reduce anchoring damage and improve compliance, while also supporting ecosystem recovery and visitor safety. The Culebra Fishermen Association proposed a community-based buoy inspection and maintenance program as a practical, high-impact response aligned with the DNR, RFP, and the Boating Infrastructure Grant Tier 1 objective. This is the audience, this is the institutional audience, I forgot to mention. As a locally based NGO led by fishers, our organization brings unique added value compared to large external technical firms, private sector firms. We have deep based knowledge, daily presence on the water, trust and legitimacy among users in the community, and the ability to integrate inspection, maintenance, outreach, and rapid reporting into a continuous stewardship model. This community-led approach increases long-term effectiveness, reduces recurring costs, and strengthens compliance through engagement rather than reliance on enforcement alone. I included this also here, but just keep it getting more longer. So by restoring the functionality of priority buoys, preventing illegal anchoring, and orienting non-guided visitors, the program addresses a clearly defined problem from which meaningful and measurable impact is achievable. Investing in a community-based model not only protects critical marine habitat, but also builds local capacity, creates sustainable jobs, and advances long-term co-management and environmental stewardship, ensuring that the reserve can fulfill both its conservation and its socioeconomic purposes and goals.
Ooh.
So it's pretty long, but yeah, it's tailored to the DNR. There's a specific RFP. I have another statement read that's is less long that just goes directly to what the RFP is addressing, but this one was the one that I was drafting before we received the RFP for the last class. We just received it just came out, the RFP, this couple of days ago.
Bailey, do you have any thoughts looking at the elements of a statement of need? Were there any elements that you feel were covered well?
One, awesome project, Alfredo. That just sounds really interesting. And two, I thought you especially did a good job of connecting the problem and the solution. Like there's this bigger picture thing about the collapsing of these coral reefs, but then you really tied it into how your specific project can address this in like multiple ways. So I think that was the part that really had me like, I'm really excited for your project because it seems like a good solution to that problem. Um, yeah, I'm
Thanks
sorry. I
for the
wish I had.
feedback.
It's helpful to have constructive feedback, and I don't know that I really felt like there was anything in it that where I felt lost or it made sense logically. This, then this, then this to me.
Yeah, I think for me,
Thanks.
something to enhance the story, I think the data incorporated is really done well. I don't think it was exhaustive, and I don't think the data that you brought in felt, out of left field or unrelated. So I thought that was good. I think if I had more time with it, there's some suggestions I could have for flow. So maybe like the placement of where statements are coming in. So I can take a look at that, or your coach can definitely help with some of that. I think all the content is there. It's just some order of operations to move around how we're introducing the problem. So I'm wondering, there's a few ways to go about it. You can start with the community first. We can start very broad and just focus on the coral reefs generally first, and then narrow it down to Culebra specifically. And so I felt that we shifted scope a little bit throughout the statement of need, but I think the information was all good. I think one thing to tie in, not because it's not long enough, is if there's a way to include a story, just because I know coral reefs are significant as a reader. I know I'm supposed to care about them. But for me as an investor, why invest in Culebra first above other communities, above other areas? Why is it so pivotal? And so we see there's 1,700 residents. That in of itself can be a bit of a challenge as a funder. I'm looking at, oh, that's not a huge target number compared to some other geographic locations. So why should I really care about Culebra? And I think bringing in a story would really help bring that home, to drive that and make sure your piece is more memorable compared to other people applying for the same proposal. So maybe incorporating that in uh, after you're without a home, shelter, reliable, healthy food source, to talk a bit more about why this is an experience that's very critical and timely now, to address with an anecdote or a story. Nels, did you have anything you wanted to add for the parts that you heard?
No, this is very comprehensive, at least just from what I have from today. And I think the comments made by others are sufficient.
Great, and thanks for the feedback. So this is a specific RFP for Culebra. So, but yeah, I definitely, if it would have been for another source of funding and another audience, then definitely we'll have to. That's one of the main challenges we have for writing for Culebra, and we are just only 1,700 residents, and how to justify that, especially when there's no enough data and all of it are estimates, data not that we cannot really depend on, and we just need to gather the data, the community-based uh, surveys and all that to really enhance what's available, because there's not really good data about Culebra. So, but yeah, it's an RFP, and the challenge, since it's already for Culebra, is like why an NGO, why a community-based NGO versus a private firm that just can come in and do the job, right? So it's how to convince DNR that, hey, there's added value for the fishermen to integrate into the management, since we're there, instead of just giving this RFP to an external private sector company.
Yeah, and emphasize your organizations and the need in the statement of need, the need to understand the community's needs, understand their culture, understand their practices, have insight into the lives and livelihoods of those 1,700 residents. You can position yourself as like, we work collaboratively with the community. We can serve as a voice for the community instead of external groups coming in. Bailey, I'm conscious of time. I think we only have about 2 minutes left.
No worries.
Yeah.
It was totally worthwhile to see Alfredo's work, and I actually got some things from that I'm going to try to fit into mine. So that was still incredibly helpful.
Okay, that's great. And I know at least with the coach, you can get some one-on-one input on it as well too. But I mean, I'm sorry about that. I was really looking forward to yours too.
That's all good. We got a lot of cool projects in this.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna bring everybody back in. And right.
Beam me up, Scotty.
Kat, we
always-
need more than 10 seconds warning for when the group's close.
Yeah, we need to wrap up our conversations, Aaron.
I don't know why that happened because the breakout rooms used to be 60 seconds, and then all of a sudden this one was like done, and I was like, I don't know what I did.
It just gets rid of the need for awkward segues. Okay, in conclusion, that's just like you're back. So you should always start a conversation that's a little bit uncomfortable just before when you see the 60 seconds thing coming up, and then you just get out of it really easy. So just real quick, we'll spend about 3 or 4 minutes just doing any final takeaways from this exercise, and then we'll do the survey for the day. And then on Wednesday, as I mentioned, Sol is going to be facilitating outputs versus outcomes. And don't worry, we already can see you guys know are really good at this stuff already. So we're gonna come prepared to be challenged. So any final thoughts on what we just did? Did you learn anything new? Did you see things from a different perspective? Did this, and kind of from a process perspective, did this format work?
This was my favorite way that we've learned so far. Like having something written already and then like bouncing around and getting everybody to like help you write it was really fulfilling for me.
Yeah, I agree. I like kind of working in small groups with a coach or instructor. I like that format too.
I agree too.
Me too, and I actually liked the fact that it was topic centered breakout groups and we can pop in and out based on what we need.
I even will extend it half an hour more.
Okay, even less talking at the beginning. Okay.
Or even increase plus get like 30 minutes more.
Gotcha. Okay. And I suppose we can do that in the future. Like we could have an option for people to stay a little longer. We don't want to keep anyone past 2 hours because we find that's 2 hours is like the magic number. It's go beyond that even by 5 minutes and just it doesn't work. But we can think about that as an optional thing. Like in terms of the format again, was when you bounce from room to room, did you feel like you were coming in cold and had to catch up or weren't included, or did that seem to generally work?
No, it worked. I would have liked to be in the third group also. That's why I asked him more time, because it was great to be able to be in the problem statement one, the need statement, but it would have been great also to have been in the third group also, the outcome one.
Okay.
Well, I guess I have a slightly different take. I mean, the input I received on my statement of need made me really want to spend more time with my other two elements before jumping back into them. So I found myself not really engaging in it because I felt like I needed more time based on what I came out of my first group with.
Yep. Yeah, so two things. We can look at doing this type of thing again, like maybe in a couple of weeks, take a break and kind of reflect and have some work time for peer working like this again to a greater extent than we usually do in the sessions. And we'll make it more clear that you take what you need. So I think it's okay. Like if you just went to one group or two groups as opposed to all three, that's fine too. We just wanted to set up a format that would give everyone what they needed. So we can definitely improve on that for next time.
Make sure you highlight that key takeaway, Kat, that Bailey said you did a good job.
Kat always does a good job. I don't
I
always
say
tell her
great,
that.
actually. Great.
Okay, let's make this Kat appreciation hour. Let's everyone spend 2 seconds telling Kat something that she does really good. Okay.
No, I'm leaving. Too embarrassing.
Do you have the link you can throw in the chat? You probably already did it, right?
I'm just a quick check-in with you because I know this session has changed around quite a bit. Is the link that we have for this lesson still the one you want to use? Or
No, let me put the link in because I make sure it's the right one here.
please do, yeah, I want to make sure.
Okay. Okay, there it is. So I'll just say our goodbyes to you while you're all filling out your survey. It was fun. It's always a good way to end the day or break up the day, seeing you all. And Sol has a great session planned out for everyone for Wednesday. And it's much earlier for Kat. It's only from 1 to 3 in the morning instead of 3 to 5. So she's pleased about that.
Wait, that's better. 1 to 3 is better than 3 to 5?
Yes, because I've mentally convinced myself now that 1 to 3 is my afternoon.
She's staying up late, not waking up early, so.
Hmm. Okay. Thank you. See you then.
Thanks.